Friday and Saturday.
Okay. So pickwickandfrolic.com for the details. As of this past Monday, Liz celebrated her 20th year in stand-up comedy.
Hey.
You got
Congratulations.
And she ain't old. You started in high school.
I started when I was 16.
That's
awesome.
In New York?
Yeah. I lived in Jersey, but I would come in.
So there's no way to know how old you are now.
No, there's no way.
What?
I failed at math.
What was your high school? What high school did you go to?
I went to Hopewell Valley Central High School.
And what was the team?
You
don't remember?
It's like Bulldogs, but it's
Is
also.
that what it was?
But it's like asking me, like, if you were popular. It's like I didn't have friends.
Liz, were you popular in high
I was
school?
doing stand up by myself. Like,
Yeah.
You know how you have like the theater kids, and then you have
Yes.
like I made up my own term. Like, you know what I mean? And then I left. Like,
It's a lone wolf move. I mean,
it
stand up
really
is,
is.
I grew up in Chicago and I did stand up before radio, and all of my friends were going through Second City because Chicago's a huge improv town. 30 years ago, when I started, it wasn't like a big stand up thing, right? You maybe have a couple people here and there. But there were people that were like, well, I just feel better in a group. It's a lone wolf move, man, no matter when you start, to get up there and go, here's some things that I think are funny. And I think you might think they're funny too. I can't even imagine. I mean, I started at 19, but I can't imagine at 16 years old.
16 and a girl the year
Yes.
after 9/11. Like,
Oh, wow.
like I waited about 6 months before I told my parents what I was doing, so I lied for a while. And then when I did tell them, they were like, you can do it, but you have to have a parent with you. So my dad, to my dad's credit, he would take the train, New Jersey Transit, an hour into the city. I would not let him see me. He would sit in a Starbucks for 2 hours and then take the train back after working probably like an 80-hour week, and I'm one of 5 kids.
Yeah.
And both my parents, I would not let them see me until I was on TV, which wasn't until I was 22.
Yeah.
Like, I have to, and then if they couldn't come, I would ask I would like beg my friends' parents, like, can you come so I can have a parent? And then I started lying when I was 17 or whatever. But like, truthfully, I was so mad at them for having that rule, and now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, I'm still.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm still the size of a child.
Right.
I'm the
Right.
size of a child. I'm 16 years old, and I'm going to the city a year after 9/11, and I still can't believe my parents let me do it just having a parental person there. So.
Yeah.
I'm actually very grateful. My dad wrote me a really nice email because he knew it was my 20th anniversary, and he was really sweet about it.
So they had been supportive kind of from the jump.
They really have. I came out to them like I was like somebody who come out being gay. I was like, because both my parents are veterinarians. I'm still a crazy cat lady. I was supposed to be the veterinarian. I was the one that was supposed to take over my parents' practice. Like, they really did have hope.
Out of 5 kids, that was on you.
It really was, because I was that crazy about animals, but I'm dumb, so they should have saw that. But
There's time, and you can learn anything on YouTube now.
No, truly. I mean, I've done my own surgery. So I sat them down and I told them what I was doing, and I told them this was my passion, and they knew it because I always was showing them clips of comedy, and I was always quoting SNL and stuff like that. But my parents were actually oddly supportive for people that aren't really artistic and were overwhelmed. And my dad, even today, as somebody that's in their 30s, unmarried, not dating anybody, my dad really was like, I just want to make sure you're okay. And now that I'm not married, he's like, I just want to make sure that you are financially okay so I can die.
Right, yeah. You still live in New York, though, or you're in L.A.?
I'm in New York.
Yeah. So there's no way that it would be, I don't want to say easier, but I guess my question is, like you said, you're female, you're 16, there's a novelty to that. Mm-hmm. So were you finding when you were first going up that like audiences were receptive because of those conditions? They were like, oh, this will be cute, let's see what happens. And then along the way, they start like genuinely enjoying the material.
I absolutely admit there was some advantage to being 16 in the sense that even being a female comic, so even though people have their stereotypes and believe that we aren't funny, if you are funny, you are remembered because you're often the lone female on the show. So you actually have people remember you the same way that if you're like looking at a picture and somebody's wearing bright pink and everybody else is wearing black, you're like, oh, that person.
Right.
So,
see, Mary, it's easier.
You're right. I apologize.
But the truth of the matter is I got passed at a lot of clubs when I was 19. There was something about me being young and eager, and I was a good writer, but I can tell you at 19 I wasn't good enough to be passed at these places. Sure. But they saw something in me, and I'm very grateful. That being said,
you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I mean, yeah.
No, and I am, but that being said, it is harder in the beginning for female comics because you get less stage time. People have stereotypes against you. Audiences have stereotypes. But once you do get funny, I really think as you get over that hump, it gets easier.
Yeah.
And I see it now as somebody that has a fan base, as somebody that has people that like what I do and know what I do. When I look at some of my friends that had an easier time in the beginning, these kind of young male comics, now they're like, oh, I kind of look like everybody. And there's nothing, you want unique later on, and you don't want that in the beginning. So it's a little weirder where like it has gotten easier in the last probably 5 or 8 years for me because my skills now stand out a little bit.
So what was the impetus for you in high school? You go, I want to do this. I've got a few things written here. Like, how did you know? You were like, well, I know where these clubs are. I guess this is where I'll go. Or were you doing like coffee houses, or were you doing any place with a microphone, or like those first couple of months? You had to do some legwork to figure out where to go in the first place.
So there was a comic that would have been a senior, and I say comic loosely because now I know he's an open micer, but when you're younger, like, he's a comic.
Right, yeah.
So he's doing it. He's
right.
Hollywood. So he would have been a senior when I was a freshman, and he was working at like a toy store. My friend was working there, and he was the one that was like, these are the places that you can do bringer shows. These are the places you can do open mics. And I really, because like you could find...
So you had somebody that knew some things.
Enough to just be able to go to the city and do it, to sign up. And so my first show was... The Cellar doesn't do this anymore, but they had bringer shows where you brought 5 paid guests and you could get stage time. So my first show was at the Cellar, did a bringer show, and Dean Obidala, who's a friend of mine, like I have video of Dean bringing me on stage.
I saw that in your Instagram. It's like, wild.
Yeah, even he reached out to me and he's like, that's so crazy.
Was he a comic?
Yeah,
like,
he's been a
comic.
comic.
I only know him from like the political stuff.
Of course, yeah. He was a comic for years. I mean, he did Access of Evil with Maz Jobrani.
I guess he did, didn't he? Yeah,
and Ahmed Ahmed. So it's so interesting. There are a lot of people in the city that have known me since I was 16, 17 years old. There's a bunch of bookers, like people that knew me when I was like 19. And the funny thing is, like, you know, knock on everything, I'm not aging.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that would be like, how's college? And I'm like, I'm almost 40. And it wasn't going well.
That being said, it's great. It's, go Bulldogs.
Oh, I owe
or
so many papers.
Yeah, right. Spring break is going to be off the hook. Liz Miele is at Hilarities this weekend. It's tonight, and then it's the Late Show tomorrow and Saturday for your shows. Miele is the last name. And so when you leave, do you do the road a lot? Do you like doing it? I know it's comfy probably in New York to run around and kind of, do things. I know you have a lot of plates spinning at any given time. You do a lot of different things.
There's good things about the road and bad things. I'm wordy and I like telling stories. So it's hard when the longest set in the city is anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like I start to open up around 20 minutes. Like I love long sets. I love being able to be silly and go on little like rants that are barely even connect to some of my stories sometimes. So I like...
The freedom of being able to just
like free range. I'm a free range comedian. So I do feel a little cooped up sometimes in the shorter sets of the city. But I like hotels. I like taking pictures. I like seeing new places. But after a couple of months of it, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like I am.
We gotta have the balance.
Well, I'm my father, so like I take the cheapest flight, which is the 6 a.m. flight. I'm also anxious because the 6 a.m. flight, even when there's bad weather, it always takes off. So I book so many 6 a.m. flights, and I'm on a plane, and I'm like, why did I do this? But it's also like I did a festival. I did Moon Tower in September. And I took the early flight. All my friends took the afternoon flight. That afternoon flight didn't take off, and they all missed the festival. So you do this long enough that you're like, I know I don't want to be on the 6 a.m. flight, but I also know I haven't missed that many gigs because of weather or because of something happening. So there's also stuff that I'm tired.
Yeah.
But also once I get rested,
there's a momentum though to it too.
Yeah, and I have rules. Like I have really boring rules. As soon as I get home, I unpack within an hour. You have to, because
I do the same thing.
Sometimes you're gone the next day and you've lived out of a suitcase for months and it makes you crazy. And I was like, I have drawers. I just got a new dresser. I am going to live like an adult.
I put it together myself.
I have to. So I unpack immediately. I make sure like eggs are something that always lasts. So there's always eggs in my fridge. So the next day I don't have to immediately go grocery shopping.
Mary's a big egg person
Love
too.
It. She's explaining my life.
Eggs.
You do this long enough and you just know how to take care of yourself in some ways.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I'm in between cats right now, but
condolences.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a rough year.
You were gone for a long time.
I know.
Yeah,
I thought I told someone to feed him. But that's like the next thing is like my mom's looking for a kitten for me. Honestly, coming home to like I'll clean my apartment. I really have become the opposite of who I was 20 years ago. I clean my apartment, and then to come home to a cat that's like, "Where have you been?" And I'm like, "Hey, bud." Like,
Yeah.
that's all I really need. Like,
How long have you been in your apartment? How long have you lived where you live now?
This apartment?
Yeah.
6 months.
Oh, you just got in there.
I just moved.
Oh,
I've had
okay.
roommates forever, and this is the first time I'm living alone.
Gotcha.
And I called my dad, and I'm like, I'm pretty great. Like, I really think my roommates were holding me back because I'm pretty sure I have a little bit of OCD, but like
You're eating all your eggs.
nobody's touching my eggs. Nobody's taught me. I remember having an argument in a college with my roommate, a very nice one, that I was like, I don't care if you eat my food. But and we lived in a 5-floor walk up. I was like, but if I come home thinking I'm going to eat cookies and then you ate the last cookies, I'm going to have a meltdown.
Right.
So if there's only 3 cookies, those are my cookies.
Leave me one.
Come on, man. Like, you can't, because it's a 5-floor walk up.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't want to go back down.
I'm in the house.
Yeah.
Pants are off. Like, I am not.
It's cookie time.
So I think that knowing how lazy I am, I try to do everything before so that I can come off the road, crash, and I have my cookies, I have my eggs, I have
But
my
it's
cat.
kind of a design laziness because you actually are pretty organized and hardworking. So when you get the chance to be lazy, you want
do
to be able
nothing.
to lean into it.
Oh yeah, like full-fledged.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get up at all. So I think I train hard, I rest hard.
Yeah.
There you go.
There was a photo you had Liz's 20th anniversary in comedy was this past Monday, and on your Instagram you had posted kind of this series of photos that you had found, and one of them was with Jay Leno.
Yeah.
And he was hosting a show that you were on or something when you were 18, or you just ran into him.
I don't even know if I had been doing stand-up yet, or I just started. My older sister went to George Washington University, and they'd get these big comics. So some of the big comics that I got to see live was because my sister went to George.
Oh, he was doing a gig and you met him.
Yeah, so like the first time I saw Dave Chappelle was like in this huge auditorium at George Washington University.
Yeah.
My sister would always invite me when big comics came because she knew I liked them and she got free tickets. So same thing, Jay Leno was doing like the parents' weekend, and my parents knew and they got tickets, and my dad actually knew somebody that worked with him, and that's how we got like backstage passes.
People like to, it's become fashionable to rag on a guy like Leno, but as a comedian, that guy's like bulletproof. I mean, just work ethic and all this other, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I mean,
absolutely. And
yeah.
I will say this, there's tons of comics that I don't enjoy what they do, but
names.
I mean, but the truth of the matter is like, I don't know if I laugh at Jerry Seinfeld's jokes. I love him when he's on award shows. I love when he talks on panels. I love interviews. I don't know if his style is something that will make me laugh out loud. I might be like, that's clever, but I love hearing him talk about comedy.
Yes.
I love hearing him talk about structure. I love hearing
It's
him
like the
talk
Bible.
about... Same thing with like George Carlin. I love both on and off stage, but whenever George would talk about like going to his office and taking it serious like a job, I get so dorky. I love that stuff. So,
is that along the lines of your style? Because those guys are famously like surgeons, like they sit and they write, and that's obviously can't be everyone's style. It's just not the way everybody processes. Are you somebody where you're like, well, it has to occur to me, and then I'll flesh it out, and or are you really regimented?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because I remember loving Sinbad, and Sinbad was the worst comic to like read about because he was like, yeah, I go on stage and I'm just on the fly. And for years I'm like, I'm a fake because I have to sit down and write and I have to memorize and I have to listen, and I'm dyslexic. So
like Richard Lewis or Louis Anderson, they were like, I never wrote anything down.
And
you're like,
and when you're a young comic, you're like, I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
But then when I heard about like George and I hear about how Seinfeld would work, you're just like, oh, there's this other type of comic, and I'm very much the other side. I still have to be inspired, but I layer. So basically, I'll think of an idea, I put it in my phone or my notebook, then I'll sit down and flesh it out. I'm usually fleshing it out on the train because it just, I don't know, there's something about, I think
It's almost meditative to do it in a place like that.
a little bit, and it just makes other people feel like they're lazy. It's awesome. You just want to be like, I'm so inspired.
If you can make other people feel bad while you're feeling good, then you're on the right track.
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
Exactly. And then from there, I'll try it out. I record it. I listen, and I am so visual that I'll transcribe what I wrote, and then I'll edit from the transcription. Then I'll do another set. I'll listen to it. I'll transcribe it again, and then I'll edit again. I do probably 10 times more work than you need to because I'm so visual. But that's when somebody's like, how did you how did you make this 7-minute story about blah, blah, blah so quickly? And I'm like, because I'm doing 10 times more work.
you know all the moves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I am a little trained, but at the same time, actually using my voice recorder has made me feel more free to write on stage more than I ever have. And that's probably been the last 10 years of just being free on stage. And I have this thing that's going to catch me and make sure I remember what I said.
Being a female comic doesn't mean that you had to have a female inspiration as a 16-year-old. But was there a female comic where you were like, I just like that comedian who is a woman?
Wanda Sykes and Kathleen Madigan.
Kathleen Madigan.
Kathleen Madigan
one of my
is
favorite comics.
Both
Man.
of them,
Yeah.
I still am in awe of both of them. I think they're like, they can talk about anything. Like Kathleen has like a joke about stamps or like the post office, and it's so good, and it's just about the post office, and it makes me so happy. And I'm working on this new joke about my niece Scout and about just like the fact that we're having a conversation, and I just get so excited when you can make something mundane that most people, who wants to hear about my niece Scout? Nobody.
Right.
But to make it fun, and when it starts to work, like I have this line that's just so exciting where I'm just like, yeah, she wants to sit next to me. That's the best. I like that she likes me better than my sister. That's everyone's goal. And then we're having a deep conversation. We're talking about unicorns. We're talking about the war in Ukraine. She's so smart. And like, yeah. And it's just, here is this thing that nobody wants to see pictures of your niece. Nobody wants to hear about a conversation you had with your niece. But to make that funny, and that's how I feel about Wanda Sykes. She'll talk about her vacation and seeing dolphins. Nobody cares, Wanda, but it's so funny that she makes you care. And those are the type of comedians that they can make tying your shoe funny. It gets me so excited.
Have you gotten to tell either of them how much you appreciate what...
So Greg Warren is a friend of mine, and he's friends with Kathleen. So when I've talked to Greg, he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm going to see Kathleen. And I'll be like, tell her there's a girl in New York that loves her. So I haven't been able to tell her directly, but I'm hoping Greg's giving my messages, like my little messages in a bottle. And then I was...
Because they're both from St. Louis.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, Kathleen and Greg are both from St. Louis.
Yeah, okay, yeah, of course, yeah. And then Wanda was supposed to drop by a show. I was headlining in LA a couple months ago, and they said that she might drop by, and if it was okay, I was like, okay, she could do the full hour. Like I was like, I will move over and do a guest spot. But I have not been able to work with either of them yet, and I love them so, or see them live, by the way, because now I have like they cost money, and like we're now on opposites, but I know what's going to happen is like we're both going to be headlining the same city, and it'll be at the same time, and I'm going to be like, I never get to have any fun.
Right?
Just do the old Eric Church and cancel your show and go see her.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, everybody, let's go see Wanda.
Yeah. Liz Miele is at Hilarities tonight. The Late Show's tomorrow night and Saturday. And you'll find her online. It's just lizmiele.com, and all of the myriad things that you do on there. And so you can go to pickwickandfrolic.com for the details on the shows. I think you're very funny. I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate your time. Stay safe. Stay happy. Tell Mom and Dad we said hello.
Yeah.
How far is it? Do you go see them a lot? They're in Jersey and you're in New York?
They used to be in Jersey. They moved, but they moved pretty far. And then I was telling my mom, because I'm filming my special on Sunday, I was like, you know, if you want to come, you could like sleep over and da-da-da. And she's like, can I? Like my mom was like, this would be the first one that she was going to miss.
Yeah.
And then my dad, he's now allowed to come, but there's a rule that he's not allowed to make me feel bad afterwards. So
How so? How would he do that?
His face.
Oh.
It's his face.
His
They
face.
both know I can't see them from stage. And my mom has moved. Like, there was a show that they came to, and my mom, they sat them like pretty close, and my mom goes, hey, we got to move. And the reason I know this is an audience member goes, I think I was sitting behind your parents, and 10 minutes before the show started, some woman goes, hey, you know Liz doesn't like us when we're this close. We got to move.
Yeah, you don't want to see them.
I don't want to see
off.
their faces.
Yeah.
Because honestly, my mom, who's very supportive, very funny herself, but she literally is like,
Right.
Like that, like she just looks horrified, and she doesn't know. Like she's like, you know, when you
because you're on a tightrope and she's worried you're going to fall off.
Well, you know, when you're on the plane and you're keeping it up with your mind, like that's what my mom is doing. Like I'm landing every punchline because my mom is willing it, so I just can't see their face.
She can't fail. I'm over here grimacing. It's going to be great for her. All right. Well, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a break.